So we want to talk about the worst products of
In our
2024.
In our opinion.
Which are right. No, our opinions change. Let's be very clear. Our opinions change on a lot of things. And not all the things that we're going to talk about we've played or not. We'll talk about that as we kind of go through it. But as we set right here in 2024, what we find as the worst products.
Yeah.
So that have been released this year. So one thing I wanted to get into, we talked about it a while back. We were ultra excited for it, blown away whenever it came out in January. It was the Vox Handwired series.
Yeah. They were supposed to release it. What happened?
It's gone. I don't know. I don't know what happened. There's no information on it. Nothing. It's gone. It's wiped from the face of the earth.
They said that they were going to recreate these hand-wired things closer than ever. I don't know if it was NAMM or some other.
It was at NAMM. It's January at NAMM.
And they're like, all right, this is what's going to happen. Just kidding. Haven't seen them.
I don't know what's going on with Vox, but whatever's happening with Vox needs, like, dire help.
They need an overhaul.
And I thought this was going to be the beginning of it. Whenever they announced it, they were talking about prices.
Right.
They were talking about releasing an AC-10. I played a vintage AC-10 once at a store up in St. Louis, Killer Vintage. It blew my socks away.
Yep.
But the price was steep. I could have made it, swung it if I needed to. But my problem was with it, if I did, I'm going to be working and repairing on this thing all the time. I'm going to be taking it out to gigs, kind of like we were talking about
You want
before.
something more reliable.
I want something really reliable, and it just didn't make sense at that price point.
Right.
But when they offered that AC-10 in January, and they're like, oh, we're releasing this hand-wired series, and I heard it, I was like, boy, I'm going to go play one in a store. If it's great, I'm just going to pick one up.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I've been looking for. And here we are, 11 months later, and they're nowhere. They're not on Sweetwater's site. You can't pre-order them. It's been a year. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. It fell apart.
I was about to say, was it a marketing error? Was it like production? Is there new ownership?
I don't know.
I don't know.
It was the worst release on any AMP series ever because it just didn't release.
Yeah.
They announced it, and it didn't happen.
You know what this reminds me of? Have you seen the episode in The Office where Dwight goes into the Chinese restaurant?
Which way did he go? That guy, when he leave here, which way did he go re-looking for him? This way, this way, this way? I don't know. Do you know?
I think he was heading downtown.
Heading downtown.
It's kind of like that. It's like, where did it go? I don't know.
I don't know.
Can you tell me?
But that's definitely... It's not because the gear was bad. But we're saying this is the worst of 2024 because it just didn't happen.
It didn't.
If the gear doesn't happen...
It's definitely the worst.
It's definitely the worst.
The next one, you talked about the Schecter Machine Gun Kelly.
The Machine Gun Kelly Schecter...
Was that this year or last year?
That was this year.
Okay.
It was a signature guitar.
Maybe I just blocked it out of my mind.
So I think he had like a pink one or something, right?
Yeah.
And that might have been last year. But this year they released one it was a razor blade.
Okay.
It was in the shape of a razor blade.
Mm-hmm.
Weird rectangular, almost like Bo Diddley style rectangle. Looked like a razor blade. It was horrendous. If they sold 15 of them, I would have been amazed. It was awful. I don't know. I didn't play one. I wouldn't be caught playing one. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
oh, what you got there? It's just a razor blade guitar. But I don't know what they're thinking there.
Well, I sure hope the tone was cutting.
Yeah,
Get it?
that was bad.
Uh,
So, yeah, that's horrendous.
yeah, not a good choice.
Yeah. So do you have something for...
To me, and all right, I know people are going to get mad at me for saying this. And I want to say I respect this manufacturer very much. But for me, the flight delay from JHS, that was a letdown.
Ouch.
It was a letdown. I mean, okay, here's why, and I want to explain.
Okay, they're coming for you.
I think the delays are awesome in it. They sound fantastic.
Yeah.
The feature set in the delays are awesome. But, I mean, at this point, we got a Halo. We got the Brig where you can set a favorite switch on it. I mean, you almost need some preset options for this thing.
So,
And I think that is its one misstep.
I...
But the delays in it sound good. I feel like it was a misstep on JHS's part.
Yeah. on the video where we talked about it, you guys can go back and see that if you want. We talked about whenever it was first released, and I think I initially said I love the idea of 2 of the settings, and then the reverse settings useless for me.
That's true too.
And then we talked about how, yeah, that same size factor, you look at things like the Keeley Halo, you look at, there's lots
And the
of,
smaller.
there's lots of pedal formats that are like the same size or smaller that have more options to like save presets. I'm not saying that presets is all you're going for. However, what I'm saying is if I wanted just a straight analog delay where I had to have, where it just had tap tempo and didn't have presets, or even if it didn't have tap tempo and no presets, there's a lot of other options I would go with,
Yep.
you know, or at least there's many options that are in contention for that same spot.
Right.
I really like JHS. I like a lot of stuff they make.
Like I said, I have nothing
know,
but respect for them.
We own their stuff. It's not like we're beating up on them.
Yeah,
It's
we literally own their pedals.
it's just
There's a Pulp and Peel right here.
right, and it's not that we don't like JHS. I love most of their stuff they make. Some of it, you know, it's like all manufacturers. Some of it hits with you, and some of it doesn't.
Right.
But in our opinions, the flight time, is it flight time?
Yeah.
Yeah, the flight time delay just doesn't work for us. It
No.
doesn't make much sense.
I think with all the options that there are right now, it didn't reinvent the wheel.
And I don't always look forward to reinvent the wheel necessarily, but it just didn't. I honestly, that little Lucky Cat delay they had,
I liked better.
I liked better too. If they would have come out with a new version of that,
Yeah.
I would have been like happier, to be honest with
Right.
you.
Or a different Panther Cub.
Yeah. Both of those delay pedals I honestly liked better. So I thought there was a little bit of rumor that JHS was coming out with a delay pedal. And not that we have any like insight, but if you read forums and you read different things and just like listen to things, you're going to hear a little bit of stuff. And I heard that they had a delay pedal they were working on. I think Josh even said it a few times.
Yeah.
However, I expected like a new format of that Lucky Cat or something. I just expected more from. I sound like a parent that's just like
We expected more.
we expected more of you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm not mad at you.
I'm just disappointed.
I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
So with JHS, we're not mad at you.
We love you.
We're just disappointed
Yeah.
in your delay.
Just the delay.
Yeah, everything else has been looking pretty good lately.
Yeah.
So, I want to talk about something here too. I think this is number 4 we're going on now.
Okay.
I want to talk about the Nano Cortex
Mhm.
as one of the worst pieces of gear this year. That's going to be a hot take. I'm fully aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think a lot of these like quad Cortex users were hoping for a smaller version that was going to be touch featured and was going to have more presets and things. And I think a lot of them would fall on the side of me that they were kind of, there's a term that I've heard used before. It's anticipation.
Okay.
So it's anticipation, and too much anticipation, you know, leads to disappointment,
yeah, they
right?
were hyped up. Yeah.
They were hyped up thinking it was going to be this amazing thing, and it was going to be like, you know, HX Stomp sized
Mm-hmm.
and have similar feature sets as the HX Stomp, only in the quad Cortex configuration.
Right.
And that is not what they got.
Right.
They got something much more akin to very simple, flipping through a couple channels and a couple presets. Of course, you can MIDI them, you can do all that type of stuff, but there's tons of pedals that do a very similar thing. There's not even a screen there you can work with. I think this was a big disappointment for a lot of guitar players, especially quad Cortex users, or maybe even like Kemper users that were hoping to get a smaller version
Right.
of the quad Cortex. I mean, do you feel any different about that?
No, that's pretty much, that sums it up. I mean, it was one of those things where it sounded like a great idea on paper until you saw it in person. You're like, oh, maybe I don't need it.
Especially when things like the IR2, you know, we've spoke their praises. The IR2's been out by Boss. The Pod Express has been out by Line 6.
And those are very different products.
Very different products.
I'm thinking more like the Kemper, Profiler or whatever.
Yeah, those small
I'm
little...
thinking it's more in competition with that.
It definitely is. It's much more akin to that type of stuff. But what I mean is, for that same size, I mean, it wasn't giving you a ton more features,
Right.
you know, than some of those other options. So for me, I think that's some of the worst. They just missed the mark slightly.
Yeah.
They were close, but just missed the mark slightly.
Yeah.
And then there's number 5, and we talked about it before we got on here, and we were kind of back and forth on if we,
We
should
didn't
put
know
it
if,
up here.
yeah, we didn't know if we should add it or not. And we'll just tell you right now, it's the PRS NF3 SE.
Yeah.
It's the 3 pickup super strat
Kind of.
kind of different pickups. We do get that. They're the narrow field pickups. It's like humbuckers, but yet single coilish.
Yeah.
Man, I'm just not excited by it.
I think it's a miss. I think some of the stuff we said was kind of valid when we first talked about it in our video, whenever they were first released this year. And then I think some of the stuff we kind of missed on, because we've heard a lot of response from people from that video that it's been big fans of them.
Yeah, they love it, and maybe that's true for you. And you know what? Power to you. We're just more. I mean, let's be honest, Casey. We're more in the vintage realm.
We are,
Like-
but I really enjoy the Silver Sky stuff, and I really like that. And I realize that's a different guitar
Mm-hmm.
completely, but it's also not a million miles away from it.
Well, and we like CEs. We like 2408s. Like, we're not against PRS at all.
Nope.
We just, it's one of those things where, like, it was, you can tell they were trying to fit like a different niche for a guitar, and they're like, let's just try something completely different. But when I hear it and everything, I'm not inspired whatsoever.
And I don't think it was different enough, if that makes sense. I
Yeah.
think it was a little bit too close to too many things all at the same time. It was kind of like the Miles Kennedy NF pickups, kind of like a Silver Sky with 3, kind of single coil Stratty looking thing.
Right.
I think it was a miss slightly, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I've not seen tons of people playing them.
No.
Like I said, we have had a lot of comments from people saying they like theirs and they
Right.
picked them up, and that's awesome. And maybe we're completely wrong, and when we actually get our hands on one, we'll feel different. That's kind of another reason too that, in my opinion, it kind of falls on this list for us for the worst of this year. Our opinions could change, but I haven't even been in a store where there was one physically there that
I
are
was about to
PRS
say,
dealers.
we live around the St. Louis area, so it's not like we have a whole bunch of shops, but we haven't even had a chance to put our hands on one.
No, and there's many shops that are PRS dealers,
Mm-hmm.
and they haven't been getting them in. And if they're not ordering them to get them in, maybe they're selling out quick. Maybe I'm completely wrong.
Right.
And they're selling out quick. But generally speaking, anytime there's a new product from PRS in, these dealers have them for us to check out. And they've not been around.
No.
So my suspicion is they haven't been ordering them. But I don't know.
It was one of those products where, like, we don't know how we feel still yet about it, but
if
it still does not inspire us. When we look at it, when we hear it, we're like, yeah, that's not for us.
if you were asking me, is it best, worst, somewhere in the middle? I think probably, generally speaking, for the public, it might be somewhere in the middle. But in my head, I think the future is going to hold. It was one of the worst releases, especially for PRS this year. When you look at all the other things they've released.
This year for sure.
For sure, yeah. And I don't know. Time's going to tell. So we'll see. I would love
Yeah.
to see what you guys think of that one too.
Yeah.